Hello everyone and welcome back to another Sensei series. Today we're taking a look at what I would consider the 7 deadly musical sins. Links to individual tips in the description, no need to beat around the bush, let's dive in. Number 1, serving your ego. There is one star of the show. It's not the guitarist, it's not the drummer, it's not the bass player, it's not the singer, it's the song. The number 1 rule that should dictate all of your musical choices is to serve the song above all else. The goal here is to create the best music possible, which may seem obvious, but too often will deviate from this. For example, I may try to show off with a fancy guitar part when something simpler would have fit much better. Or maybe I'll try to throw in a cool new jazz chord I just learned. But if I'm playing in a Johnny Cash cover band, that would not be tasteful. Of course, that's not to say there isn't a place for complexity and flashiness. When you're on stage with your glam rock band, go nuts. See, in a way, great music should transcend the self and the ego. You're serving a higher being, that being the song you're creating. So the question becomes, how do I know what's best for the song? For that, you must trust your musical instinct, and to develop that, you surround and immerse yourself in as much music as possible. Which brings me to the second deadly sin, number 2, closing your ears. This is when something within your psyche prevents you from being open to enjoying all types of music. When someone says, I don't like insert genre, they've closed off their ears. Which isn't to say you can't have preferences, but by writing off an entire style, you're doing yourself a disservice. There should be something you can find that you can at least appreciate within all genres. Learning from other places will only help when you go back to your preferred genre. A musician who has completely opened themselves up will have more refined instincts and a richer understanding of the art. You can also close your ears in other ways. Be open to hearing feedback, both positive and negative. Listen to those trusted people in your life who will tell you how it is even when you don't want to hear it. You can also close your ears in a more literal way. Sin number 3, listening inwards. Music, more often than not, is a group effort, and you should be hearing everyone playing in your band as clear as you hear yourself. This can be counterintuitive at first. In day-to-day life, when we make noise by talking, we become the center of the conversation. And as we carry on the discussion, we take turns alternating the spotlight. If everybody talked at the same time, no one would be able to follow along. With music, that's exactly what we do as a band. We all talk through our instruments at the same time, creating one unified voice. If we're not in perfect sync, it'll sound like the musical equivalent of 5 people having separate conversations at the same time. To find this harmonization, you want to be aware of all the sounds happening around you, which can be fairly difficult. A great way to practice this is to play along with a metronome, jam track, or something like that. This gets you listening externally. When you do get in a room with musicians who are all equally dialed in, great things happen. You interact more, create new subtleties, and if anything ever does go wrong, it's easy to reel it back in. Next up on our list of sins is number 4, playing out of tune. Day 1 stuff here. If you're playing out of tune, no matter what you play, it's gonna sound bad. Check your tuning regularly, but on top of this, make sure that your instrument is intonated, meaning that the notes you play on the 12th fret are in tune with the open strings. Now, there are situations where you can play things that aren't typically considered in tune, like those juicy quarter step bends. But those weird notes are still in tune with an aesthetic choice, not a mistake. Number 5, playing out of time. Rhythm is one of the least flashy things about playing on guitar, but maybe one of the most important. See, it doesn't matter which notes you play, if you play them with poor timing, they're wrong. Great timing should be something we all aspire towards. Rhythm is one of the most deeply rooted elements in music. Someone who doesn't know a thing about music will be able to tell instantly when the rhythm is off. They may not be able to identify the problem, but I guarantee you they will feel it. To work on this, involve the metronome in everything you practice. I also discussed this topic in one of my first ever Sensei series. I'll put the link in the description. Just like with our last tip, there are times when you can mess with the groove. For example, playing behind the beat to create a laid-back feel. The saxophone great Dexter Gordon was a master of this. Again, it's an aesthetic choice, not a mistake from lack of training. Moving on to our next sin, number 6, playing timidly. If you're gonna make a mistake, make it loud and proud. If you play 100 notes with conviction and 5 of them are wrong, no one will ever notice. Alternatively, if you play 100 notes unconvincingly, none will sound good. Often musicians will shy away from the parts that they are less comfortable with, the idea being that the audience won't notice if they play it quieter. However, this typically has the opposite outcome. People are less likely to pick up on a wrong note here or there than they would an elongated drop of confidence. You also want to play like you practice. If you don't practice in your bedroom timidly, then by doing something different on stage, you're more likely to make a mistake. An especially obvious place for this is when you enter a song or a section. A musician nervously limping into a part sounds awful. Make your mistakes loud and proud, own them, and then fix them for next time. And the last of the 7 deadly musical sins is overplaying. This ties into the whole not serving the song thing, but I'm not really talking about a musician who overplays to serve their ego. Instead, many of us have a habit of overplaying when we get nervous. When you get on stage, your adrenaline starts pumping, your heart rate goes up, and your brain becomes hyper engaged. But remember, you're going to be way more aware of the sounds you're creating than anyone in the audience will be. Because of this, musical space will seem way longer to you than it will to anyone else. Nervousness will often get us filling in this space with note after note. But musical pauses are incredibly important. It gives the listener a chance to process whatever they just heard and prepare themselves for whatever you're going to play next. Musical spaces are the equivalent of punctuations, and without them, your music is going to sound like one big, long, exhausting, run-on sentence. A good rule of thumb is let the music breathe a little more than you think you need to. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it, the 7 deadly musical sins. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you are guilty of any of them, worry not. By making an active effort to improve, you're forgiven in my books. These videos are made possible by the lovely people who support my channel on Patreon, and through that program I offer a monthly giveaway to everyone involved. This month I have a gift box from Hosa, and within it we have a bunch of high-end guitar cables, speaker cables, microphone cables, some connector cables from your pedal board, a guitar maintenance kit, and a bunch of other cool things. If you like what I do and you're interested in the giveaways, as well as a number of other unique rewards, please consider hitting that link over there. Until next time, thank you all for watching. I'm Samurai Guitarist, and I will see you again soon.